Okay, we're live.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to our Hildebran Town Council meeting. We will begin with a moment of silence.
Hey, just you're calling in, right? Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Gary, how about leading us in the pledge?
I'll be back. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Review and adoption of the agenda, and I believe Alice has a 6C
Yes.
to add.
Yes.
So you'll need to make an amendment to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to have the golf cart ordinance under old business 6C.
Okay. I'm calling this for a roll call vote.
Yes.
Okay. Cole.
Yes.
Mike, yes. Terry, yes.
Eric, yes.
Ben, yes. Can everybody speak up, please?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Close.
Yes.
Okay. Number 4, approval of the minutes, August 23rd, the remote regular meeting minutes, and the closed session minutes. Just look over that and make a motion when you're ready. I think you have the closed on your table.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right. I'll call it for a vote.
Cole, yes.
Mike, yes. Terry, yes.
Derek, yes.
Ben, yes.
Okay. Public comments. Do we have any?
No.
No public comment. Okay. We will move on then to old business. 6A, continued discussion on tower renovations and dispensation of same. Council may take any action they deem appropriate after discussion. I put something on your tables. It was from Johnny Childers. It's about the agreement between the town and HHDA. Redmond, you may remember this.
Yes.
Okay, it's basically the town agreed to save the tower if HHDA dropped a lawsuit. Is that not what you remember, Redmond?
As long as the area was safe, yes.
Okay,
That part didn't seem to get in there.
and HHDA would like to have an engineer who specializes in restoration projects look at the tower, and they said they are willing to pay the cost of that engineer's analysis.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the person that already did it was more than qualified. Logan, can you remind us of his credentials?
Yes. Okay. So he was a graduate of Norwich University. While he was there, he was Student of the Year, Engineer of the Year. He was a U.S. Naval League Honor Recruit. He was an Ernest M. Harmon Award Scholarship recipient. He was a Chi Epsilon Honorary Fraternity student. He was part of the Association of Chi Beta Pi. He was also an Alpha Chi National Honor Society student. He was among one of 6 engineers that were deployed to Edgem County through the Sears program with the North Carolina Emergency Management team that assessed flood damage to residential structures from Hurricane Matthew. He's also part of the structure specialist in North Carolina for the urban search and rescue. He's also an ACI certified field technician, grade 1, and an ACI certified concrete construction specialist inspector. He has a total of 8 degrees and certifications. He was also, the reason why we felt like he was a good one was he was part of the North Carolina's Structural Engineers Association founding board. This is something he specializes in, but again, if council did want to pursue a second, I think that they could.
Well, they're willing to pay for it, and they wanted somebody who specializes in restoration projects. I'm sure that guy has a lot of great credentials. I can tell that, but I don't think it's gonna
Yeah, I
hurt.
don't think anybody's disputing his credentials. I think it never hurts to get a second opinion.
Well, from the public, I've heard a lot of people, especially after the last meeting, questioning his credentials. So I wanted to make sure all of that was brought to everybody's attention. Personally, I feel that, we've had a lot of time, effort, money spent on this conversation. I understand that second opinion, even like if you're not even talking about a tower, if you're talking about medical stuff, is not a bad thing to get. But I think at the end of the day, a second opinion is not going to make the project any cheaper.
Well, how does everybody else feel?
Well, I think where we left it off last time, we were around what, about $4,500 just to, it still was gonna look like a bird cage. Was that correct? Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, it was the way he described it is going to be external steel bracing on the outside. So I think what everybody needs to remember is no matter what action the board takes today, the tower's not going to continue to look the way that it looks right now. And so
That's gonna be terrible. I mean, to have steel around it.
yeah, it's going to look like it's in jail.
Yeah.
And so I mean,
It's a bit like a bird cage, is what you're gonna be looking at. You're not gonna look at the tower, you're gonna see a bird cage around it.
yeah, I mean, so no matter whether you love it or hate it or indifferent about it, the tower's not going to look the same. So is it really worth paying at least $400,000, to wrap that thing in a bird cage? I mean, that's the question.
And I guess the other question, even if we did that, I think it was still only 2 to 3 people occupancy or 3 occupancy.
Total of 3.
3, total 3. So I mean.
I don't think anybody was supposed to be in it.
What's that?
You're talking about occupancy of the,
Even if we fixed it, I said.
Even if it was fixed,
If-
it would be
say
three
spend-
people, obviously all can be in it.
well, I don't think anybody, it was never intended to be anybody in it.
Right, but you're right.
That's
So
not
it's not.
correct. First it was only going to be a memorial, and then that got changed because they wanted to put tiles. HHCA wanted to put tiles inside to let people to come in there and see them. That's why they wanted to take the doors off of the front, put them on the wall. So how would you keep people out of it? I mean, it would be completely open air. That's why it would be held to the 3-person occupancy.
That's what I was gonna say, how they gonna see the tiles?
Yeah, and window, you're right, it's not gonna look the same. I mean, it's gonna look, the sad part is it's gonna look a shell of what it is. Because the time you reinforce that, and then you're not really sure, once they put steel through there and reinforce it, if the whole thing doesn't come down. If it hits it in the right spot, or the right brick, or the right thing. It's, it's tough. I mean,
And then don't forget about the maintenance costs after that, because it's gonna, no matter what happens, it would still have to continue to be repointed and engineers to check it every, 5 years, he said,
at least.
at least. I mean, there's gonna be ongoing costs with that. So I just wanna point out that the conversation that several members of this board had 4 years ago, we discussed about, even though the pool was not the town's property, about possibly doing something about money on that. When the cost started skyrocketing, getting about $200,000, the board at the time did unanimously agree that that was too much to spend for something that would only be open 6 months of the year, or 6 weeks of the year, but would allow a whole lot more people in it. Now we're talking about something that's gonna be probably double that and allow 3 people at a time. And then on top of that, how would you even, regulate that?
Yeah,
Because
at
there's
least-
not gonna be anybody there.
Well, I think we should get the second opinion if it's not gonna cost the town anything.
I can't see keep getting second opinion, third opinion, whatever. I mean, it's just that it just keeps, it's like, well, HHD's ain't gonna pay it, but the thing of it is it's gonna just keep on going. I can't see it. I'd rather see some kind of replica memorial, something built, or replica built of it with using the bricks stripped down and make it where it's usable, where they're going to be able to do a park, put bathrooms and stuff in it, and where it can be used for something that's going to be beneficial. The way it is, it's not beneficial to nobody.
Yeah, if you can only have 3 people, it's kind of, but it's $500,000 for 3 people. It's kind of, and I like Cole Hattie Police that, I mean, for the law enforcement, unless you just have cameras, of course you have to have security there and cameras. And then what are you gonna do after you have 3? I mean, it's a challenge. But
And I mean, I understand this tower means a lot to a lot of people. I mean,
absolutely.
my in-laws are actually having a reunion on Sunday, so I understand what this tower means. And I think that if it was voted to take it down, I think the stipulation needs to be put into place that something is put back immediately, that it does reuse the same brick that was there, you know, and you know, make it more functional with the overall park plan. You know, and actually have dedicated space for the tiles if HHCA wants to continue to do that, you know, to memorialize it and actually put a lot more planning into it. I think would be a better use, like the structural engineer said, we could probably put something back new, even using the same brick for half the cost. And then, you know, we could get another 100 years out of it, you know, because I think at this point, you know, it's gonna, the thing with the mortar is just, that is a big sticking point for me. It's got to be very specialized. It's going to need a lot of TLC, and over the years, it's just going to get worse to deal with as far as chasing the mortar joints, to constantly match it if it has to be repointed. And I think something we would be better off, ideally, is if we build something new with it.
So your idea is saying if we take the existing brick, Logan, how does that work as far as doing the park? Do we still have enough planning to where we could put a useful replica tower using the brick, and is that an option?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're not tied to any specific
Plan.
site plan. Yeah, I mean, it can still be moved around, and in fact, it probably will move around from time to time after they do surveys, look for utilities. It'll probably, I mean, theoretically, you can put it back where it is now, you know, obviously in the same place, but, yeah, I mean, theoretically, if you wanted to put it somewhere else at the entrance, you could do that.
And I mean, I think at the end of the day too, you know, Wendell, this goes back to a conversation you and I had even before we were on the board. You know, Hildebran does not have a focal point for the town. And the school used to be it before, tragically, you know, it burned. And, you know, the tower, one of the reasons why we wanted to save and try to do the best we could to save the tower, I still agree with the conversation that we had, that there does need to be that focal point for downtown. You know, we had put banners up around town talking about downtown Hildebran, you know, honor the past, build for the future. And I do think that by just stripping it down, still doesn't give that focal point. And I think by doing the park, that helps, but you need that big thing. And I think, you know, we can take this as an opportunity to build that thing that would define downtown, and give somebody that focal point to look at, to know that they are downtown, not just because there's banners, but actually something there. It could be the centerpiece as it was intended for the park, you know, whether it's in its current state or in a different state that we're discussing. You know, again, we don't need to be caught up in the fact that the tower is the tower is the tower. We need to remember that it's going to be the tower in a jail if we keep it the way that it is. Or we could take it down and actually make it, you know, if it's going to be that visual focal point, that it could be something attractive to look at. And we can take that in consideration and take that in consideration, the planning of it, the design of it, along with the park, make things functional so that way more people can use it, more people can appreciate it for what it is, more people can honor, you know, the educators that taught in the school, that can honor the alumni that were there, that can, you know, we even talked about doing a veterans memorial. We could build that into it. There's a lot of other things that we can do to it that I feel that we're constrained on the space that we have in its current condition. And even if the birdcage goes around it, I mean, really, what's the functionality of that going to be? And I think this would be something that the town could actually use more of and appreciate it more instead of thinking, all straight negative just because we can't leave it the way that it is. And at the end of the day, something's got to happen with it because, we're not able to use our parking lot right now. A lot of the other things around it are constrained because of the safety issue and the way that it is. And I can't justify the cost personally.
But I think, to your point, if you build it right, get the right architect there, you can make that whole tower be nothing but history. The focal point would be history of it. Because I think at the end of the day, hey, look, if it made sense to say that I'm right there with it, because I've got a lot of memories there, and every one of us in this room's had a memory walking through that tower. Every one of us. So it does mean a lot. So I think we're not devaluing the town any by, if we can find an option where we can make something functional, it makes sense. But, I get it. I've got a lot of attachment to it too. I feel the same way every time I look at it. I can still remember walking through there. So, but I like the idea of making it memorial, not memorial, but, using plaques, and tiles, and brick, especially for
Something's gonna be functional.
Yeah.
Well, does anybody else have any comments?
What you think, Mike?
Well, I think the same way, but I mean, spending that kind of money and only 3 people could walk in it. How
It's
you
a lot
gonna
of money.
place it? It's a lot of liability if somebody was to get hurt or whatever. But like Cole said, if we do decide to go that way, I think it ought to be tore down, use double bricks, come up with a design where you can have a big room to put the memorials or a walk through.
Absolutely.
Put the memorials through there and then maybe design it, we're on top of it. Maybe
You got something,
maybe build
a replica top of the tower.
a real replica up there. You
Right.
can just miniaturize it. It don't have to be 40 foot high.
Yeah.
Build a room where everybody can walk through, see the memorials and everything, just part up top here, just be
A replica of
a
the,
replica,
Well,
the facade or whatever, nobody goes in it, but
And we might can build that for Friday. Well, I'm not saying Friday. I don't know how much it costs to build. Right now, it's probably expensive.
well, I mean, we'll have to brick.
We'll have the brick.
got the brick, yeah.
And there's extra brick for whenever the school burn that's been stacked up. So, we do have a lot of resources, and I do think by using as much of that as we can, it definitely lends to respecting the past part of it, and that's exactly the whole mindset of it. And
Like you said, $500,000 and then a bird cage sticking around.
It's not that, that's.
That's not gonna get nobody's memories.
No, it's
It'd
going
make
to
it worse.
hurt their memories.
Yeah.
It's like,
Ben, are you hearing everything?
Yeah.
Okay, did you have any comment?
Well, sounds like everybody's mind's already made up. I don't think it's too much to ask for a second opinion. I've been on the council for 4 years. I've had more people contact me about this than any other issue. So,
Well,
let the chips fall where they may.
I'm not against them letting them get a second opinion. But I mean,
we'll have the same out.
We're still gonna be in the same boat.
I understand that, but I mean, if they don't get a second opinion, let them get it. I'm all for it. They gonna pay for it, let them get it. But I just don't wanna see something sticking up our, that's like a bird cage, you can't use it. Where are you gonna put your memorials?
Well, you can. That's the whole thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, the top can you screw them to the outside, you know what I mean?
The only reason why I'm concerned, two points. Number one, putting the memorial up in the way the building currently stands, when you're putting all those plaques in, you're gonna have to drill into the wall, into the mortar, and that mortar is already
That's what I'm saying.
drunk, right? So we saw all those pictures, and that's leading to my second point. The only reason why I'm against even doing a second opinion in this instance is because I saw with my eyes, I saw with the pictures, regardless of what the engineer said, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And all the pictures that we've seen of that, and when you touch the mortar, it crumbles in your hand. I can't see, in the gaps or the back wall, where the wall is separated. I can't see that any structural engineer is gonna come in there and say anything less than what we've already heard.
Well, and to your point, Mackie Johnson did actually say to the council, it would be useless to get a structural engineer because they're gonna come out there and tell you it's not structurally sound. Even the architect who did the work.
So less good news than what you have before, bad news, you know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's all gonna come down to money, and I just don't think that, I mean, you can get 2, 10, 20 engineers out here, specialized or not, you know, I don't see any of them's gonna come out and say, you know, oh no, it could be done for 50 grand, which is what we were originally told, but then, once we opened everything up and we could actually see, we saw that the damage was worse than that, and so I just don't see how, I mean, no matter what engineer worth their weight, you know, with any kind of credentials, specializations or whatever, is gonna come back and say this is gonna cost anything less than half of what the last already said. And what if they did come back and say $200,000 would say, would you, I mean, we're getting in a hypothetical, but I still think at the end of the day, if you pay, you know, $200,000 to save it what it is, you still have to put bracing on it. I mean, you can't deny that. That's already gonna change the appearance. You could build something back for about the same cost. You could probably get another 70 to 100 years out of it. I think at the end of the day, where are you getting your value for your money? I think, you know, as difficult of a decision as it is, as emotional a decision as it is, you have to start thinking, you know, with your brain. And I know emotions drive a lot of stuff, but we're not running a charity here. We have to keep mindful of taxpayer money here, and this is a lot of taxpayer money. And at the end of the day, to affect 3 people versus more if we rebuild, I think we're getting better bang for a buck, you know, building back something using the same stuff. And I think the other part that we haven't mentioned is that if we do decide to vote and to tear down and to build something back, I do think we need to give the money that HHDA raised back to them to determine whether they want to still do the memorials and give at a later time once the design for the new building's been put up and all that. I don't think we need to hold on to that right now because that money was raised for Plan A, and Plan A, if it's voted, decide that we didn't go with it, then we need to get that money back. What was it, 25.5, I think? We need to give that back to them. And then, you know, when we come up with Plan B, if that's the decision, then if they want to get money at that time, then they can, you know, whatever they choose to do with it. But
Can they use the plaques they've already purchased?
I don't know if they've been purchased or what the status is with it. They have,
They've all been purchased.
okay.
Yeah, they're over in the museum if you'd ever.
The plaques already there. I mean,
Yeah, everybody that bought one
And then mine.
has got the plaque, has a plaque.
But you're saying just they can keep the plaque and then use that?
Well, I mean, I'm saying,
They worked hard raising this money,
Absolutely.
getting it up.
Absolutely.
I'm
They
all
stood,
for
they
giving
stood
the
up
money
for
back,
the deal.
yeah.
I think we ought to give it back to them.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
yeah. And then at a later time, if they decide to donate those plaques and do whatever the money or whatever is done, I mean, that can be determined at a later date. But I said that shouldn't be determined until after drawings and plans for a new facility, whatever you want to call it, have been drawn up, because that money was raised for one set purpose. If we choose not to go with that set purpose, then that needs to be given back.
Yeah, I agree. So you're saying if we go this option, then I guess whoever needs to look at the brick and make sure the brick are sound, the ones we can keep, you know, to use, and then build it back as a replica. As much of the old as we can, you know.
I was getting ready to say, some of them might have been,
There's some out
may
there
not
deteriorated.
Might not qualify.
qualified to be put in back in right now.
But maybe that's something we give the town the option, if ones we don't keep, if somebody wants to take a piece of history with them, or just however we want to do that down the road, that might be an option. You know, I don't know how that works, but, yeah.
But I'm glad Cole brought that up.
Well, yeah.
Got to give them their money back.
Well, yeah. And then the other thing, and this is just a personal gripe that I have about how slow government works, I think whatever's determined, that we need to put some gasoline on this and make it go as quick as possible.
Absolutely.
Whatever happens, you know, if it comes down and something come back as quickly as possible, because this site has been in a state of disrepair for too long, and something needs to be done regardless. No matter what is done, something needs to be done as quickly as possible, and let's get past this and enjoy the site for what it is, and instead of a constant construction zone.
What about this agreement that the town made? I mean, you can go back and look in the actual minutes if you don't think this is correct here, but, You can go back and look at the date and go to the actual minutes and look it up and see the agreement that was made.
Brendan, what are you gonna say about that, Mike?
There was plenty of discussion, and Johnny recites a lot of discussion. But again, everything was predicated upon preserving that if it was economically feasible and structurally sound.
Did it say that?
It was discussed. But again, this is Johnny's summary.
Well, then that's why I say, let's go to the actual minutes.
People had 5 years to go through the minutes.
I'm sorry, what?
People have had 5 years to review the minutes on this. It's been out there for a long time. And if you get a second opinion, I think you owe it to yourself, to the citizens, to get an independent evaluation from somebody. Not somebody that they've already pre-selected, who's a preservationist. Somebody who will do it purely from an engineering standpoint, not a preservation standpoint. To get a fair analysis. Anything can be preserved if you're willing to spend the money.
Right. They're hard to find, those guys too.
Well, I think at the end of the day, in regards to this agreement, I don't think that was set in perpetuity because no building, nothing is ever gonna be saved forever because at the end of the day, stuff deteriorates over time. And that's the situation that we're at. And I think it only makes reasonable sense that, if the building is deemed, unsafe, or not structurally sound, then something has to be done. And I think that's why we're in the boat that we're in right now.
Personally, I'm all for just going and taking it down and going ahead and building a replica and memorial for it. Out there and doing, get on with it pretty quick, get something going. That's where I stand on it.
Then you got something safe people can use,
Right, make it functional.
make it function.
I'll make a motion, we take it down and build a replica back and something functional out there on location and give HHDA their money back that they raised and move on it fairly quick about getting something else put up.
Well, call it for a vote.
Can you repeat the motion one more time just to make sure we got it?
And the amount of money too.
I make a motion that we remove the tower and look at building something back that's functional with a replica or whatever of the tower and give HHDA their money back that they raised.
That amount is $25,500.
Yes, and what you would also need to do is demo costs when the people have come out to look at it. If you're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, so you'd also want to include a budget amendment for the town to execute at least up to $20,000 for the demolition costs.
I'll make the motion to include up to $20,000 for demolition.
It's up to, right?
May I ask a question? The replica, would it be the same scale, same dimensions?
I think you'd have to give it a C. I don't think it'd be the same height. I don't know if you can get it that high. I don't know. That's a good
You
question.
theoretically, with as much money you can do.
We can build a Trump skyscraper if you really
Yeah,
want.
we can.
I think at the end of the day, I think it comes down.
I was thinking something like, room big enough, to put the memorials in.
Yeah.
People can, if it's raining or whatever, they can walk through, take your time, look at the memorials. Come out there, on the other side, and then on top of it, put the replica.
And
And I think it needs to be something big enough, they're gonna put the memorials in it, put the restrooms in it, like we're gonna have for the park, make it functional, we'll put the restrooms all in it, the place for the memorial, and then put the replica on top of it, where it's gonna resemble the tower.
Memorials will be protected on the inside and all this. And you said restrooms in it, that's fine. But then put on top of it, put the replica, I can't say it.
Well, I think in relation to where we've discussed putting the amphitheater, you could even put concession stands in it. So I think the ground floor may look different, but I think to your point, the replica, going up, it
Should look like the tower.
It won't. I don't
It
think
won't
it'll be
always
the
look
same.
like it'll be in the same proximity as what the tower is,
Yeah.
to resemble the tower.
But I think all that could be taken into consideration. But I think the other part would make sense to take it in consideration with the grand park design that we're doing. Instead of building a separate structure for concessions or
Right,
restrooms.
making it all functional.
On the backside, yeah, that's
So I think
whatever.
to your point, whatever it can be, I guess we'll make it as high as we want or as low as we want, whatever that's gonna look like as far as stuff.
And it may come down to whatever materials were able to be salvaged. I mean, if it was determined half the brick couldn't be saved, then we may not be able to do all of that. But I think, that part can be determined. Whatever can be saved can be saved.
Well, and we do have scale drawings from hybrid architecture of the tower. So if you did want to build something back, theoretically, the exact same size, same dimensions, same doorway, same placement, you've got that.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
And I do think that this needs to be done as quickly as we can get it done. Both demo and
Both, right, I agree.
Okay. Do you have everything you need in a motion?
Well, I think the replica part is gonna be further discussions. I don't think we can get all that in a motion.
But at least if it's stipulated that there will be something built back.
A replica that is functional.
All right, so we go back to voting. Cole, yes.
Mike, yes.
Terry, yes.
Derek, yes.
Dan, no.
Six B, discussion of Christmas craft show.
So normally we have the craft show sometime in November. This year due to COVID, does council have any, opinions? Some towns are canceling their events, some are. The biggest thing would be that our craft show is normally inside. So that does concern staff somewhat, but, again, you gotta think about spacing, you gotta think about the people. I would consider who your age demographic is. Are they gonna turn out with the numbers as high as they've ever been?
What's your thoughts, Alice? I mean, you deal with this all the time, booking.
I'm inclined to say that we not this year. There's three of us. Last week, two of us were out due to quarantine. That could potentially happen again. I've got two girls in school. We all know COVID's everywhere in school. I could potentially get it at any point in time. Same thing goes with our vendors. I mean, we always have last minute cancellations, but with COVID, there's that greater possibility that vendors are gonna get COVID and they're gonna cancel. Then you've also got probably not as many people that will be coming due to COVID. So even if you were to have your vendors, you're not gonna have the participation, and then it's not good for them because they've spent all the time doing crafts. And if there's not people coming to sell, then they're not happy. So
You're saying it's a lot of headache right now.
Well, it's a lot
Well-
of headache for uncertainty.
you want your vendors to be successful. You want your participants to be happy with the amount of vendors that you have. And with COVID, you just don't know. And with staff, we don't know. And we could have two of us out 2 weeks before it happens, and then who's gonna run it? It's just a lot of uncertainty right now.
I'll say going through Marion, at least once a month, they have some type of outdoor something going on. They've had a lot of participation, but I think that's because it's been outdoors. I think with it being the time of year and it being indoors and with the uncertainty, I think it makes the best sense to go ahead and cancel it this year.
I'll make the motion to cancel it.
Gonna call it for a vote.
Cole, yes.
Mike, yes.
Terry, yes.
Derek, yes.
Dan, yes.
Six C, and this has been added, it was on your desk when you got here.
Yes.
Logan, do you have any comment on that, or is it just speak for itself?
Yeah, 6C, So at the last meeting, we voted to change the golf cart ordinance, but there's a specific way it has to be done. It has to be done by ordinance, not by motion, not by vote. So essentially, this is nothing more than us rectifying what we didn't do last meeting in terms of procedure. So same area, it's still only going to impact Main Avenue up to, I believe it's 3rd Avenue or 3rd Street. Same distance. So now we just need council's approval to make it official.
I'll make the motion to accept the ordinance.
Can I call it for a vote?
Cole, yes.
We'll read a motion to
Mike,
approve
yes.
ordinance 5-24-21.
Correct.
Correct, yes.
Terry, yes.
Derek, yes.
Ed, yes.
All right, 7, new business. 7A, discussion on HHDA monthly rent for the auditorium basement effective October 1st, 2021.
So council voted to suspend receiving payments from HHDA due to the cruising. Now that the cruising season is over, we just need to know as staff, do we continue non-charging HHDA, or does the council want to go back to charging them?
Well, they make their money on the cruise lines, and that's how they make their money to pay the rent all year. So I want you to consider that.
So you know, they say they can't hold no events, can't raise no money.
It's not their fault.
I say suspend it till everything opens back up. That's a motion.
Well, the only thing I'll throw out there is that, yes, I understand that they've held cruise-ins and that's been the fundraiser they've done, but there have been other opportunities that they could have done something else to raise money. That doesn't mean that you can use COVID as an excuse to just not raise money. If I was a business, I mean, I could say, oh, COVID, and shut the doors and expect welfare to cover it, or.
No, the excuse was you said we need to shut down the parking lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't COVID, it was shut down the parking lot.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is there's other ways to make money. And you know, if they didn't take the initiative to find other ways to fundraise at all, then I mean, that's on them. You know, they've known about this for a while. So I mean, there's been several months that money could have been raised. And I mean, I understand that it's not the most convenient answer. I know it's not the most touchy-feely answer, but at the end of the day, you know, a nonprofit that is set up to help the town is supposed to set up to help the town, not the town to constantly fund the nonprofit. So that's where I'll leave my comments.
Does anybody else have any comments? Let's see, Mike made a motion, you made a
I made a
motion,
motion
correct?
to suspend their rent until things open back up.
Do we have a date? We don't have a date.
I mean, I don't know when it's gonna open back up.
You could do it quarter by quarter and just reevaluate until, so maybe don't talk about it.
Do it by the quarter, then.
Do about a quarter.
So that'd be until January 1st.
Okay, so that's the motion. Is there anything else needs to be said? Okay, I will call it for a vote.
Cole, no.
Mike, yes.
Terry, no.
Derek, yes.
Ed, yes.
Okay, 7B, consider approval of contract with Terminex to eliminate openings in gym roof and address the overhang on the roof of the municipal complex, as well as the contract with all glass to address the windows of the municipal complex and appropriate budget amendment.
Okay, so to address this, we got reports from citizens that bats were in the town gymnasium. So what we asked Terminex to do was come out and look for any and all openings at the gym to address those. They had a quote of about $4,700 to address the gym. While they were out here, we also asked them to go to this building up to the chimney that comes to the top We talked about it before, there's a section where the bats are just able to get into, they stay there, they're not leaving. So for the 6,500, that would both give them $1,500 to pursue a lift to get up to the chimney and address the gym. All glass, the reason we want to use them, we can get rid of the bats, but the windows on the 3rd floor keep falling. So if we don't address the windows, keep the windows up, keep them up, then if we get rid of them at the chimney and the gym, they're just going to come to the 3rd floor. So essentially, the quote right now from All Glass is around 600, their most recent quote. The information you had in the memo was a quote they did last year, but actually came out this year and quoted it less. So all in all, we'd be looking at about 7,100 to address the gym, the 3rd floor windows, and the chimney. And we would need council approval on that.
So this guaranteed they're gonna take care of?
What terminates?
No.
No. What it guarantees is you get a 1-year warranty. You can pursue additional warranties, but again, what terminates will cover is the work they did. So again, that will guarantee if, let's say, something comes open at the gym, then yes, if it was one of the parts they sealed, which is the roof on both the upper section and the lower section, if something comes undone, that's under warranty. Now, let's say someone opens a door and they cannot check all the roof looks sealed, they're not getting in that way, then that wouldn't necessarily guarantee that bats can't get in there. It's just going to guarantee that they're not getting in through the method they're getting in through now, if that makes sense.
So the $60,000+ that we've already spent on the 3rd floor of the building was not covered because they found other ways to get in. So we're still having to pour money on this back window problem, and it's not going to go away because bats are resourceful. And even if we spend this money, which I'm not saying we don't, they're still going to find a way. And yes, even if we put glass on these windows, you can look at the 2nd floor breezeway where it ends, and you can look right through the door. The bats will just get in right there. I mean, there's 100 different ways bats are going to get into this building. So this is going to be a much bigger problem, and we're going to have to keep pouring money on this thing.
I guess there's no solution right now. These bats.
There's a lot of environmental problems on top of that too, because you can only do so
much.
certain things certain times of the year too.
And apparently there are no natural predators of bats that I'm aware of.
I don't know of anything that eats them.
No.
But they eat their weight in mosquitoes.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't fire a gun and
We
see
do
that
have
too.
it, result of that, and what we're talking about is a realistic. And guess what, we have fewer total mosquitoes of any municipality in America. So we have a lot of bad ones.
What, wasn't there, they was, these bats was in danger or something? We couldn't mess with them or something? I don't know.
They are a federally protected species.
Are you kidding me?
No, sir.
I know that.
No, sir. Not only did we, the first time it came up, did I get lots of calls from the North Carolina wildlife, but I got some calls from the federal fund.
Interesting.
And it's a criminal offense to dispense with them.
So in 20 years, when we're all not sitting here and Redmond still is, we're still going to be talking about this backwater.
I mean, we did that also. I mean, as Cole said, they're extraordinary results. But we gotta try to do something because the photo of the gym were sweeping it up. I don't think that's probably the most acceptable way of doing it.
Interesting.
My question is there another company that can come out? Because obviously Terminix wasn't very thorough the last 12 times or however many times they've been out. Or is there any way that we can have them do a more in-depth look to make sure that this is actually going to solve the problem?
We got a bat specialist anywhere on them?
Well,
Because I mean, they didn't set some kind of net and then that's what attracted them, and so that's what's still causing issues.
well, the basic thing I know is even Terminex has like a specific wildlife division. So they have a specialty division just for this, that's what's come out. I have not checked to see if there's any other companies out there, basically just due to the fact that that's, this is who we used last time. So if council does want to wait, we can look for additional options and bring that back in October. But the only risk is, number one, your season ending on when you can address them, and then number two, leave them in the gym during basketball season when it starts.
that stuff starts very same day.
Right, so.
We need to
And the other place you could get for a resource, I guess, would be to call the North Carolina Wildlife Commission and see if they have anybody. I mean, I don't know. The people I talked to local for a while have don't know. I mean, it's some kind of, they can't control the deer population. Why they gonna be able to control the bass? How they control the deer is let have both seasons in town. I mean, I haven't sure.
I say we go ahead and get it done, just because of the time of the season and
They
everything.
recommended it.
But I do think that
I would recommend it just for, at least taking this first step, and if you want me to pursue.
I think we need to reach out to North Carolina, whoever that we can get in touch with to kind of give this another look. We're here, where you're still sitting here 20 years from now, you'll be listening back to one of the stories.
I won't be here 20 years.
Hey, I won't put in for the next contract to sweep that guano up out there, though. But I heard that, they charged us $58,000 to go up there and empty them panels and sweep that stuff up. People that raise organic, they pay $20 an ounce for that stuff. So they might kill them.
Are you saying that we got a revenue source that we're not using?
Yeah. The guy that raises organic told me they pay that $20 an ounce for that stuff, put on their organic food. But now they call it hazardous waste. It's like I told you back in, it ain't nothing but food.
I remember that comment.
Did somebody make a motion?
I'll make the motion, we go and proceed.
Proceed for the,
3,800.
Yes, whatever that amount was, 65. Okay,
65 cents.
I call for a vote.
Cole, yes.
Mike, yes.
Terry, yes.
Derek, yes.
And yes,
And that included a budget amendment.
So.
Yes, it did. Budget
65.
amendment number 5.
Yes.
7C, consider approval of purchase of a gator and appropriate budget amendment.
Okay, Councilmember Weaver approached us about this. So when we had originally talked about a gator, we discussed it during the budget retreat. The figure that was brought up at that time was somewhere between 15 and 20,000 for a gator. So after it was brought up, we do have brush, limb removal, trash pickup. There's things in the memo I mentioned that we could use the gator for. Two things I would say right now. So I've been talking with people at John Deere and at Hickory Home and Garden. One, if you were to consider a gator, one thing that might be good to do is wait and see before we get with this park grant. If you end up with 2 parks, it's absolutely going to be necessary that you have something like that. We should know, from what I'm being told by the people at the state, we should know sometime by the end of October or early November if the state passes its budget. That would significantly increase the Part F funding, which significantly increases our chances of getting the grant. There's also potential for extra funding from the state that maybe we may be able to use that funding to purchase the gator so that it's not the town's pocket. The other reason is
can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, so the main 2 things are, one, seasonally, we're not about, we're about to be at a point where we're not doing a lot of outside work. Number 2 is even if we purchase and order the gator now, they're on a back order due to all the lack of workers, and they can't deliver it until next spring. There's another thing that when I was on the phone with him is that North Carolina is going to street legal some of these gators. So you may be able to purchase a gator in place of a truck to have something that can both get on your streets and on your parks. So, however, they're not going to release that guidance until next month also. So that may impact not necessarily buying a gator, but which gator you buy.
But in my opinion on that, if you had to spend $15,000 or $20,000, you should be able to find a used one and buy it from somebody that services.
Well,
Like there's a guy of Valdez there, he can probably find you a used one or whatever, but if you're gonna spend this kind of money, in my
They
opinion,
quoted it, John, over,
6,900.
yeah, 6,900 is what we can get it for. through,
Okay, I'm sorry, I was saying this
No,
15,
you're all right.
20,000.
Yeah, I asked the same questions.
Well,
69.
and here's the other thing about that, the 69 includes like $430 in sales tax, so it's really more like 64. However, with this particular model, it's one of the ones with, can't go as fast, it's got a smaller engine. It would not be one of the ones that, even if they did approve it, would be street legal. So until we know the list of ones that can be street legal, it may be, I mean, it just may be a month or two. We're talking maybe October or November before we know.
Because you still can't get it till spring anyways.
Yeah, so I'm not recommending that we don't purchase it or purchase it, but if you do purchase it or agree to, you might want to wait to pick one until
See how
October,
this
November.
I agree with that.
Well,
But here's-
my point was, if we was gonna spend that much money, we can get a pickup where y'all can run and pick up your supplies, whatever you need to do with the pickup. That's all I was saying.
Well,
Yeah, you're right.
I got an idea that'll help touch on that. So the maintenance person that we got, right, full-time, started September,
Yes,
working out good,
He's doing a fantastic job.
has a truck, right?
yes, and he's currently using that vehicle for some park maintenance.
Can we not put a stipend in there to cover for the cost of the use of that, so that way the town doesn't have to, number one, own a truck, number two, own the maintenance, number three, own the insurance, and we're essentially paying him for, not per diem, but we're paying him as part of his
I
salary.
thought,
That is a stipend for it, and as long as he's on, he can use his own vehicle, which he's comfortable with, to do what he needs, but then the gator would be the town's property, so we come out cheap and have two vehicles.
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, pay, I don't know how you did, like you said,
Save a lot more
pay
money.
about a mile, or, I don't know.
Well, we may just want to do like $20 a week. That would cover gas and any maintenance. You're coming out about 1,000.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, that makes sense, and then to the
And we don't
point
have a
about the gator,
liability. Yeah.
I think it would be good to table the rest of the discussion on the gator till next month. But I think next month, if we have a better idea of what would be good, we probably, especially if they're back ordered till spring, probably want to go and get our order put in.
Right. So is that a vote to table?
And he hadn't had a complaint using his truck. He's been fine using it and everything else.
Thus far, and I can talk to him more about it, see what he's comfortable with, and we'll bring that back next month with the other information.
And if he's willing to do that, I mean, we could even retroactive that to, beginning of September since he's been using it.
So you're saying,
I tell you what, I wish
$80
everybody would take a look at what he's done. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable.
Okay, staff will bring that back next month, November at the latest, but we'll at least have an update in October, even if everything's not been sorted out.
sounds good.
Okay, 7D, consider approval of resolution for appointment of review officer. And that resolution is in your packet.
Make the motion to approve the resolution for appointment of the review officer.
Call it for a vote.
Cole, yes.
Mike, yes.
Terry, yes.
Eric, yes.
Okay, 7E, September facilities report. That's in your packet.
Okay, so on this on auditorium about long-term care evacuating, is Bridge Worship, are they not renting the auditorium anymore?
Yeah, they actually left last week, I believe it was, so they gave us notice. They were looking for a smaller facility due to COVID. So yeah, the main concern with that is, that's a revenue loss of about 8,000 to 9,000 for a year. So, depending on what happens with the state budget, if we're allocated in funds, it may be worth, at this point, knowing you don't have the tenant, looking at doing auditorium seats, but I would probably table that discussion also till at least next month or November.
I think those seats need to be fixed.
And we may have a ceiling issue in the back near the stage. So, Joey, when he did get back there at the maintenance, the new maintenance hire, he did mention there's quite a bit of plaster falling, so that may be something small to look at, but something also to look at when we're looking at the seats.
Seven F, August tax report. That's in your packet. Obviously, any comment on that? 7G, August deputy report. That's in your packet.
One other comment about businesses within the town related to that. Hildebran Tire has moved out of town.
And it looks much better.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They haven't brought all
They
the
haven't
equipment
completed,
out.
I thought they was moving though.
Yeah, but they're located down in Colony Springs, not inside the city limits, just past Eastburg Boulevard, Cabaret Way, and but they still have a little bit of cleaning up to do. I heard a car lot was coming in. I don't know if Al's been approached by a permit for that.
Yeah, he's talking to Todd about it, our planner.
It's probably the same guy's been talking to us too down there about our building. They want to put a car lot there.
You're talking about used cars?
Yes, used car lot. They contacted us too down there. Yeah.
I would assume that code would have to go in and okay things. I think it needs to be brought up to code.
Yes.
Some of you were here a while back, we had a car lot that we had some problems with on 70. And I went down there with the deputy and we cut the blue light on, and a lot of people there of Latino origin took to the hills. And then started getting cleaned up a little bit. But we don't want to have that kind of stuff.
No,
Schufer's left out too, didn't it?
Schuford's, also, Don Schuford also moved his business back to, Mount Hebron Avenue. Said he couldn't keep a mechanic, so he's just gonna do mufflers at his dad's old shop. So that building's open also,
Which one's that?
off railroad track.
Schufer's exhaust.
Pretty used to build it.
Oh, very nice building. Workman or the name eludes me at the moment that built that building, but
Doesn't Bess own it?
I believe Best does own it. The business part, the property, I thought same guy that ran on Houston Trucking,
Bobby?
Swanson thing, the building.
I heard Bess did, I didn't know, that's what I heard.
It's a very nice building, good location.
Okay, we ready for committee reports? Technical Coordinating Committee.
Yes, so the town was informed this past month that we did lose 3 DOT-sponsored projects. One was gonna be an 80-20 match with the town. We had talked about the North Center Street sidewalk project. That was estimated about $1.4 million. We were gonna be responsible for about $260. The state said they were gonna have to put that on hold due to funding issues and the increased cost in construction during COVID. The second one was the state, it was gonna be 100% state sponsored, a roundabout between South Center Street and Main Avenue intersection. That's been taken off, or at least pushed back on the books for now. And then the third one was the modernization of Wilson Road. So they had looked, that road's too narrow based on current DOT standards. They were gonna look to, again, 100% on DOT's part, fund the widening of that road and a sidewalk along with it from North Center Street on Wilson Road to 10th Street. That one's been put on hold. The two that haven't been are the Main Avenue East sidewalk project we talked about. And then the second one is the exit 118 interchange. So that one is the one we talked about previously, with them kind of building a sidewalk up past L Products or Moose Holdings, that property. So that's still gonna happen. And there's actually something I need to touch on in other business under that. But, so 3 of those projects did get pushed back, 2 of them are still on the books for right now.
They give an estimated time of that new road through the help. Products on.
It should be done in conjunction with the exit 118 project. And from what I've been told, they've already purchased that land or have an agreement to purchase it.
someone was killed on, Warwick's Church Road this morning.
Corner of Wilson Road.
Was that what that was?
Yeah.
I pulled out this morning, it's fire department, everybody there.
Yeah, so for the last 5 years, I've been talking about there needs to be a sidewalk on North Center Street. And this is the exact reason, because there's people that walk in that road all hours of the day, dawn, daylight, dusk, dark. It doesn't matter when. And that's exactly what happened. Somebody was walking in the road, somebody came by, it wasn't even at a curve, it was just at dawn, and got hit dead on the impact. It was terrible, it's tragic. Honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened more, because it early or late, there's always somebody walking on that road, and it's really dangerous because people feel like it's the on-ramp to the Wilson Road Speedway. So there's always fast traffic on that road, and that's why something needs to get done. So even though this part of the 80-20 project that we were talking about doing with the DOT on that road, it needs to be taken into consideration. A life could have been saved if this had been done the first time. The town got a grant, $750,000 to give the money back. This needs to be continued to be a high priority for any administration going forward until that sidewalk is built. Because North Center Street and Wilson Road are two roads where most of your citizens live on or live off of. And that's where the bedrock of this community is. So if you want people to be healthy, out and about, doing things, you gotta protect them. And it's our duties as town council to do something about it, whether we work with DOT or not. Now, North Center Street, that's not a town road, but we can, DOT always works on about a 10-year behind span. So anything you need done needs to be put in 10 years ago. Well, we put this project in 2 years ago, and you see where we're at, keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed. So we need to stay on top of that, no matter who's sitting up here in the future.
So I will take I'm sure there was probably a report done with whoever was hit or if a body was discovered, if they were hit by a vehicle.
Highway patrol.
We can take that information to DOT and explain to them the dangers. If they do a traffic study, that report will show up that someone was hit, and we can see if there's something they can do to either speed that up or put that project back on the books. Can't guarantee anything, but we can at least take that on, and that, hopefully that would open someone's eyes.
Well, the DOT never does anything until somebody loses a life. I mean, that's why they don't put any railroad crossings up. I mean, granted, that's the railroad. They don't put anything up until somebody dies. That's true. So it's the same thing with the DOT. So, I mean, we need to put it in the face. However, we need to get the media involved in it. I've sat up here probably on at least 6 occasions where I've joked almost ran over Brand Lingerfeld right here at the intersection. And it's not a joke, I almost did. He was in the road. He didn't mean to be, but it's, when you got 2 cars passing, you only got so much room. So, I mean, there's a lot of foot traffic on that road, all the way from the traffic light, all the way to the city limit. So there must be a sidewalk put on that road. And I don't care how long I'm sitting up here, I promise you, I'll still be in front of this council until it's done.
Actually, 10th Street, Wilson Road, North Center Street, 78, they're all narrow roads.
Too narrow.
And they all have a lot of foot traffic on.
More now than ever.
Yeah. 10th Street, and you have to remember, when people are going to 127 or Granite Falls or anything like that, Wilson Road's a cut-through road. So 10th Street, 78 to 10th Street to Wilson Road on into Longview. So
Also need to be some some kind of schooling done, teaching people how to walk on the road. You don't wear black hoodies when it's black dirt, they walk in the middle of the highway. I mean, these meth heads, all this stuff out here walking, they don't move. They wear black hoodies, cover themselves up, and need to wear something reflective and walk the right way on traffic.
I agree.
And when you see a car coming, step off the road. These people, man, they're dumb or box rock. I hate to say it, they are.
Sidewalk would help with that.
Both of them.
Transportation Advisory Committee,
Same thing, loads of it's all delay.
okay, the COG Policy Board Delegate. Ben, is that you?
The meeting is tomorrow, and then I need to ask Mike if he's gonna be able to go.
Yes, I can go. I'm sorry, I meant to answer your email. Yeah, I'll go.
Okay, Burke Economic Development.
Then just approve minutes, quarter plans, updates, budgets, stuff like that. Also moving forward, we're gonna need, find somebody to replace me for that, moving forward, because I just cannot do that Friday, indefinitely now for the next, I just can't, it's not gonna work out. So maybe somebody to physically be there, and somebody wants to take that spot. I feel like we do need to have somebody there because there's a lot of stuff going on, just more than just in the email. So, but I just sent that over to you guys.
It's a good meeting to go to. They usually bring breakfast.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of good stuff too. They have a lot of good stuff going on over there too. I did email that over to you. It's just agenda, the meetings and budgets.
Recreation and tourism,
Nothing to report.
water resource, Vedic,
Unable to attend.
the library board meeting is tomorrow. Okay. Is there any other business we need to talk about?
Yeah, I have two things. So, we did just get a new code enforcement officer. The COG did make, I believe it was one, maybe two hires. Matt Taylor will be the town's new code enforcement officer. He did send out the report. We're not attaching those to agendas, but we are sending out to council. So if citizens want it or a copy, they can always request it, but that's out there. He did get over the September report. So if you want to say hi to him, I can get you his information, or I can ask him to stop by one of the next few meetings. The second thing is, so last time we talked about the exit 118 decision for the new street. The other thing that's come along with that is they're now asking if they want the council, if they would like the council's approval for them to continue with their current plans, which has a multi-use path on that bridge and extending out from it. They're saying they're perfectly fine doing that. You know, that project is going to impact the church's parking lot somewhat. However, they're asking if council would want to have DOT not do the multi-use path, not acquire the right of way, not expend those funds until we extend our sidewalk, which is on Main Avenue West, from 3rd Street Southwest to the church. It's about 1,700 feet where that gap is. So essentially what they're asking is if the town would want to voluntarily take on the cost of doing that multi-use path until we extend the sidewalk from 3rd Street to the exit 118. I would advise council to have DOT go ahead and do that. They're willing to cover all the costs associated with it and get the right of ways. It's already in their current plans. I don't see why the town would want to just voluntarily take that on over 1,700 feet worth of sidewalk. And we can even look at even once they get into that project, actually doing the exit 118 interchange, we can go ahead and price out what a sidewalk would be from that point to where they're at and go ahead and make that connection if that's a concern of theirs. But I wouldn't recommend the town taking on that expense voluntarily, just over that missing 1,700 feet.
If they're gonna pay for it, they'll pay for it. Now, is this road that they're gonna be building, is that gonna be a state maintained road?
Yeah, it'll be the actual bridge, the exit 118.
I'm talking about the one that we talked about building, it's gonna go by the properties or whatever.
Yeah, that'll be the state maintained street, yes.
Any announcements? Okay, looks like we have a closed session. Anyone wants to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, thank you. I'll call for a vote.
Cole, yes.
Mike, yes.
Terry, yes.
Derek, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
What do we do with that?